Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. I think we can all recall Elon's predictions on this Q4, saying it will be an epic Q4, along with other various predictions of hitting 50% growth in production and almost the same in deliveries. Just to remind you, last year Tesla delivered 936,000 vehicles, and so far this year, excluding Q4 Tesla, have delivered 930,000. So pretty much the same number of deliveries this year so far as last year, implying that Q4 would need to be just above half of what has been delivered so far this year. That's quite a jump in deliveries required then. It would in fact mean that we need 474,000 vehicles delivered to hit 50% year-over-year growth. Although on the earnings call we were told we would be just under this number. But production should however be about that. Firstly, let's just do some numbers and make sure this is even close to possible. Fremont is going to have a production of around 145 to 150,000. I see no reason why it should be any less. Shanghai production in October was 87,700, and November was 88,700, which comes to 176,000 already for Shanghai. If December was the same as November, then that's 265,000 produced from Shanghai. Alright, we're hearing rumours about the Model Y line production being reduced, and we'll discuss that later. And that comes to a total of 412,000 with both factories. If we have about 28,000 from Berlin and 25,000 from Texas, then that brings us to 465,000 produced for the quarter. Of course, Tesla won't be able to deliver every vehicle they make, no matter how hard they push. However, we do have about an additional 30,000 vehicles in inventory right now, or vehicles that didn't reach their customers last quarter. Now, although Elon said last earnings that they are changing their logistics and not going to push deliveries as hard and end up having to pay premiums on shipping and instead spread them out more economically, well, I have a theory that they are reverting back to their old ways this Q4 and going to give it a big push. It's the end of the year quarter, which is the most important. It's also Q4, which is the biggest selling quarter for vehicles. There are reasons to back up this theory. Let's start with all this inventory. We see in Fremont that Tesla are pushing their inventory with incentives by offering $3,750 discount on any vehicle bought in inventory. That's quite the incentive, and rare for Tesla to ever offer any kind of discount. This is likely due to the fact that many consumers in the US are aware if they can wait to take delivery until next month, then there's a chance they'll receive twice as big a discount with the government incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act. Another way to look at this is Tesla know they will have no problem selling any of these cars in inventory next month, as demand will presumably go through the roof after this massive incentive. These cars would sell for full retail price next month then, but Tesla are choosing to sell them this month for $3,750 less per vehicle. Tesla are paying $3,750 so these vehicles get sold this month instead of next month. That is quite the premium, and then possibly a further premium again on logistics of getting them delivered. The consumer gets half the discount, but they get their Tesla now, rather than not only having to wait until next month, but potentially 6 months or even more, as we don't know what the new waiting list will be when Tesla incentives really kick in. The Tesla website could possibly crash again from so many people wanting to order a Tesla. Now, although I said it's rare for Tesla to ever offer any kind of discount, we've also recently been seeing some incentives in China too. Firstly, we saw the insurance incentive, then the price drop with further insurance incentives if you bought from inventory. Tesla are pushing all these vehicles they have in inventory. They want customers to take up the slack. This inventory in China could have eventually been exported, but there may not have been enough capacity for exports for all of them to reach their customers in time and count as a delivery for the quarter. If Tesla are exporting this late in the month, then it may take too long for them to reach their destinations. Therefore, Tesla want to push more with domestic sales in China, thus offering these incentives. Tesla want to hit numbers this quarter and are willing to sacrifice margins somewhat in order to do so. In fact, we witnessed this already in November. I was actually surprised by this number in November, 100,000 wholesale from Shanghai, yet only 88,000 produced. 12,000 additional units, compared to the opposite in October with 16,000 fewer units in wholesale than produced. But the bigger surprise was 62,000 retail sales, or domestic China sales, in November, compared to just 17,000 in October. Now, why wouldn't Tesla have exported more in November? Exports went from 54,000 in October to just 38,000 in November. A lot of us assumed that as demand in China is allegedly down, then Tesla would simply push more exports, especially when we still have a bit of time ahead in the quarter to make sure they reach the customer. This is the biggest ever domestic retail sales in China that Tesla have ever done for the second month of a quarter. In fact, by a really long way. 28,000 more than ever before. Not too far off double. So the narrative is that Tesla's demand in China is dropping, yet the numbers are showing record retail sales, when there was definitely capacity for further exports if they so chose. To me, these China numbers look strong, which is a perfect segue to the biggest FUD piece circulating investors right now. I'm sure you're familiar with the rumours, how they started and how they evolved in regards to Tesla reducing production in Shanghai. It would seem that the latest on this is that Model Y plant is going to now shut down at the end of the year for a 1-week holiday, for the last week of December from the 25th to the 1st of January. It would appear that this is just for the Model Y, and the Model 3 workers do not get to enjoy this alleged holiday. This is according to an internal memo that we're not shown, but was reviewed by Reuters. Now, if this is true, it may make more sense now as to why they pushed out so many domestic sales in November if they're closing for a holiday, which does seem strange, as I would have expected something like Chinese New Year to be a much bigger reason for a holiday than Christmas. But if this is what's happening, then it is not necessarily anything to do with demand issues, which is really all that matters. It might, however, mean that around 15,000 fewer Model Ys are produced for the quarter, but as this was the last week of the quarter, then I wouldn't have thought there'd be too much of a chance of many of them reaching their destination in time. So perhaps we might lose 5,000 to 7,000 deliveries for the quarter as a result. Then production is presumably back to normal. I mean, it does seem a little odd to me, but if it is so, then it's just 1 week of production from just one of Tesla's production lines lost. And knowing Tesla, if the line is down, they wouldn't waste the opportunity and would likely make upgrades to it whilst they have the chance. Perhaps when it's back up, it will be at a faster rate even. Maybe, but I think the limiting factor in that line is actually shifts. They have 3 currently and could increase production by 10% more with a 4th shift, apparently. But alright, so what? Not a big deal if demand is still there and production is still going as strong, and not even a big effect on deliveries. This isn't meant to be my deliveries estimate, and anyone estimating deliveries this quarter is guessing, no matter how close they get, as there is a big guess as to what the discrepancy will be between production and deliveries, due to the huge disparity we're now seeing, with the uncertainty as to how Tesla will treat logistics. For all we know, there could be a difference of 30,000 units between the two this quarter. However, I'm saying it appears it will be much less. In fact, this quarter, it is even possible deliveries will be higher than production, due to all this additional pushing. As for production, we knew it was going to be around 465,000 for the quarter, but if we lose this last week, then it could then be as low as 450,000. And don't forget, supposedly Tesla China is denying this shutdown period too. And if Tesla wanted to push this quarter, then it would seem strange to shut down. And if it's shutting down for a holiday, then why not the Model 3 factory too? Anyway, we don't know how reliable Reuters is on this. They have been all over the place with this rumour too, without consistency, which does reduce credibility. So if we have 450,000 produced and Tesla delivered 30,000 fewer, then that would be 420,000 delivered. I would call this the absolute worst case scenario, and even that would be more likely 430,000 due to the fact that not all vehicles in the last week would have been delivered anyway. I think it will be more likely deliveries are closer to production numbers, at around 450,000, if Shanghai is shut down. But Tesla pushed deliveries in Shanghai a lot in November, so they may possibly as well in December, along with the discounts in the US. Therefore, maybe they deliver 10 or even 20,000 more than they produce, taking us to 460 to 470,000 deliveries. And if Shanghai isn't shut down, then possibly up as high as 480,000. Therefore, currently my deliveries estimate is likely between 430 and 470,000, depending on whether you believe Tesla are pushing and if Shanghai Model Y is shutting down. But if you want me to give an actual number based on gut feeling, I think Tesla are pushing and we might be at around 460,000 deliveries. This seems more bullish than most estimates, but I have explained to you how I arrived at every number, So up to you to decide on whether I'm being realistic. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether Tesla are pushing, Shanghai is shut down, and any estimates you might have too. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.